Yes, I want to begin showing you some data because my idea is that when we speak about the connection between elderly and welfare, we have to consider deeply differences between countries. Countries are very different for many reasons, and I want to show something on this and then some consequences in the organization of welfare. Can you go home, please? Okay, go on. Go to the first table. Yes. Okay. Okay, stop. As you can see, the first table here, these are data coming from Share. Of course, you know, Share is a big survey on old people living in the houses in many countries of Europe. Here we have two data that are data for 2017 for 17 European countries. The first column are seniors over age 80 with at least one child living less than 1 kilometer away. As you can see, look at the enormous difference between Denmark and Poland. In Denmark, only 80% of old people live close to at least one child. In Poland, it's 74%. Then, in my opinion, it's not possible to speak of the European family from this viewpoint. They are completely different. Look at Denmark, Sweden, Switzerland, and so on, and France, and look at the south of Europe, at Eastern Europe. If we consider this data, some of these are not only they live close, but they cohabit too. But if we look at, an example, to Italy, these 66% of Italy are practically whole non-cohabiting. They live close. It's clear in the second column, you see the similar data, but from the viewpoint of single children of parents age 80, living less than 1 kilometer from at least one parent. It's only single children. Then they have not brother or sisters. Then you see that is exactly the same gradient with some little differences, some little geographical differences, but it's the same side of the coin, okay? Then the first very simple results, but if you have to organize welfare, we have to start from this, that if we speak of Denmark, it's simply not possible to speak of the subsistence of children to old parents. If you speak of southern part of Europe, of eastern part of Europe, it is completely different. Go on, please, in this document. And if you make a more refined statistical model, where the answer variable is to be or not to be, to live or not to live close within 1 kilometer, you see that results, if you look at here, Italy is the reference country of residence, is Italy is 0, then you see the enormous difference with Northern Europe and Eastern Europe and Southern Europe. It means that the differences are not due to the other covariates. That is not a problem of demography, of fertility, of education, and so on. There are very strong cultural differences, very strong differences that are due to the past organization of the family. Then we can speak about anthropological differences. Go on, please. Go to the map. Here you can see the map. The blue and the black countries are the countries where people lived very close, where generations are one close to the other. The yellow one is where they are fast, they are far one from the other, and there is an intermediate situation. Okay, you can go home. And what is interesting is that the welfare, if you have to speak about welfare and to speak about what we have to do for facing aging and so on, for guarantee a wellness to all people, we have to start from these differences between strong and weak family ties. Of course, it does not mean that people in Italy, Italian children love more their parents or less. It's not a problem of love. It's a problem of different life organization, of course. But this different life organization had very important consequences. Look at the next, go on. Okay, look at, can you enlarge, please? Only the first one. More. Look at carefully. In the x-axis, there is the proportion with at least it's over 80s, housing proximity to children, and proportion living in a collective residence in 16 European countries. Compare Italy and France, for example. You see that in Italy, 66% of old people live close to at least one child. Whereas in France or Belgium, this proportion is 30%. Look at the ordinata, what is the Y axis, the other axis. This is a proportion living in institution. It's a data of the census around 2011. And you see that there is a correlation between the two. In Italy, only 2% of people live in institution. In Belgium and France, it's 14%, completely different. And it means that, of course, there are many other factors and so on we can discuss as long as you want. But if look at data of Italy, Poland, Spain, Croatia, Greece, it's not possible to have a low proportion of people living in institution if we have not closeness between parents and children. This is the results. And if you look at Italy, Italy is very incredible because now we have in Italy only less than 2% of old people living in institution, and these people, about 75% of them are disabled. It means that in Italy, institutions are only the place for finishing life. I had a big institution near, close to my house. I am in scientific committee of this institution. I saw some data, and the mean time of living in this institution for people is 6 months. It means that they arrive there for dying. This is what's happened in Italy. People, Italian people, do not want to go to live in institution, and they try to go to the institution as late as possible, and if possible, they prefer do not go there. It's not a problem of money, problem of other things. It's a problem of preference. If they can, they avoid. Come on, please, to the next one. I have to run, of course, because I have to show the a sort of landscape. Okay, here is the in the x-axis is the same variable, the proportion at least living at 1 kilometer from the child, and in the y-axis there are the proportion of domestic workers out of the proportion of domestic workers out of the total of regular workers. What say this data? This data, these graphics say that the closer the children, the higher the proportion of domestic workers living. As you know, if you go inside to this data, you see that most of them are people that live in the house of the old people, and they sleep in this house, In Italy, we have around 1 million, perhaps more, people living in the house of the old men and women. And these men and these workers, these domestic workers, permit to the Italian men, old men and women, to stay at home, even if they are seriously injured, if they have mental problem and very hard physical problem. And most of them are foreigners. And the situation of Italy, as you see, is similar to situation of Spain, Portugal, and so on. This is what you can say. Look at the contraposition between Spain and Denmark, completely different. In Denmark, practically, there are no domestic workers. Why this situation? I know the situation of Italy. The fact is that the large part of contract between domestic workers and caregivers, foreign caregivers, are signed not by the old man over the old woman, but it's signed by her or his child. Then the child lives close. The child can control what the foreign house worker do, and interact continuously with the caregiver. Okay, go on, please. Go. Yes, another very interesting thing is the problem of who must provide for a person in need according to the law. You know that in all countries of Europe, and not only Europe, there are some obligations. You have to provide to your spouse if he has had problem. And if you do not provide, the state asks you money for paying for the assistance and so on. But the obligations are very different from one country to the other. Compare Sweden with Italy. In Sweden, you are obliged to help your spouse and to help your parents. You are not obliged to help your children. There is not a law obligation. In Italy, you are obliged to help your spouse, your parents, your children, your grandparents, your grandchildren, your siblings in law, your parents-in-law. It's an obligation. It means that if your parent-in-law becomes ill and he has not money enough to provide himself, you have to give him money. And if you don't give money, the state can arrive, can ask you money, can take you a part of your savings and so on. Okay? Then you see that also the law is close to the models I described you before. The idea is that the family is in Italy. It's the family is not only people that live together, but it's what is defined by relatives, by the connection between parents and children, and so on. Go to the conclusion. Yes. Go on. We can read together the conclusion. Several concluding considerations can be made in light of these starkly different welfare realities among European countries. It's neither easy nor perhaps useful to attempt to discern the chicken from the egg. That is, whether the welfare state was born in Northern and Central Europe to make up for the shortcomings of family aid, or if Eastern and Southern Europe's provision of the insufficient welfare has forced families to provide primary assistance to the vulnerable. It is, however, instructive to observe that once the general growth of income and wealth made welfare possible, at once the idea that the state must take effective action in caring for its most fragile citizens became consolidated, every European state, and not just European, has taken different paths, notably These paths are deeply intertwined with the prevailing anthropological structure of families. Moreover, these differences have not disappeared over time and may in fact strengthen in the years to come due to the different demographic dynamics of Northern and Southern Europe. Any broad judgments, can you go on? Any broad judgments of the merits of the given welfare system compared to any other must therefore be made with caution. It's unlikely that the welfare approaches of Denmark or Sweden would be able to maximize well-being for the frail elderly living in Spain and Italy. The identification of the most suitable policies to ensure the best possible condition for seniors should start with the recognition of the profound diversity of family systems across countries. For example, in today's Italy, there will be important reforms of the methods of the employment of the foreign domestic workers, for example, by simplifying the procedures to allow regular entries from abroad, also thanks to direct agreements with some countries of departure, and hiring in good standing. It was estimated that at least 1/3 of foreign domestic workers do not have a regular contract. Come on. Yeah. Yet, this does not mean that the welfare of each individual country is definitely shaped by the dominant family configuration. Nor does it mean that countries cannot adapt and change in their search for optimal welfare solution in a given historical period, looking also at the solutions adopted in other countries. Indubitably, however, the most suitable formulas for helping seniors in countries with strong family ties, where most elderly parents and adult children live in close proximity, will look much different than those most appropriate in countries where the majority of parents live far away from their children. Thank you.